Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wish Alliance's Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and tonight our guest, leading expert in exoconsciousness and integrating ET contact, Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. And as a futuristic coach, author, and founder of the IXO, Rebecca is committed to building an exoconscious civilization on Earth and in space. Exoconsciousness is the innate human ability to contact, communicate, and co create with extraterrestrials and multidimensional beings. But before I bring Rebecca on, I'd like to thank our partners, Neil Gar, founder of Portal to Ascension, and Alan Steinfeld with New Realities, for sharing our programming on their YouTube channels. And I want to remind the viewers, if you have not subscribed to these channels, please hit the subscribe button and like. And we thank you so much from the Wish Alliance for watching. I also want to thank Bridget Renee Holiday for sharing our programs with the Awake and Ascending group on Clubhouse. And thank you guys so much for listening and joining us every week. We really appreciate it. And I also want to thank all of the Zoom family for coming out week after week and listening to all of these phenomenal speakers that we have and for supporting the Wish Alliance. But right now, what I want to do is bring April Dick on, who's going to share with us some of the upcoming events with Portal to Ascension and with the Wish Alliance. So, April, come on up. Where are you?
I'm disabled from sharing. So,
okay, let's go ahead and see what's going. There we go. All participants. Awesome.
Okay. Well, Sheila asked me to highlight the cool events that Portal of Ascension is having. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, we're looking at Portal of Ascension. I did sign up for you can sign up to get emails, and they sent me an email today about a convention that they're having in the middle of April. But when you look at their website, this is what's happening this week. Michael Tallinger is doing a workshop this Sunday, and Ancient Egypt's and extraterrestrial connection on Saturday. That looks pretty good. Mystim, Indigenous healing and modern encounters with other dimensions on Sunday also. So there's no lack of things. Oh, here's our Marina Serene. Thursday, March 17, making contact with extraterrestrial. That looks like a great workshop. And Laura Eisenhower, Divine Intervention, Overcoming Dark Agendas. So that's pretty full, and it goes on and on and on. Neil's a very busy person, and he gets everybody educated. I really think that's great. Do you want me to talk about the wish?
Sure. And the reason that I'm asking April to talk about the wish is because honestly, she is my right hand and most of the time my left hand and brain as well. Once I got the website up and running, it just kept growing and growing and growing and really became hard to manage. And April stepped right in and has made it as amazing as it is today. So thank you, April.
Thank you for the opportunity too. I have to say, I've been alone for 2 years in isolation, and Wish came into my life when I was super depressed, and yeah, it's been really good for me for sure. So, and I think it's a family now as we get to
Mm-hmm.
the show. So yeah, so if you sign up, you'll get biweekly notifications of all the different events that we have. If you go up to events, um, you'll see that there's amazing stuff happening all the time. Our upcoming speakers are posted all the time, and we also send notification through email and we have a Facebook page. So today we have Rebecca. You can also see past speaker presentations. So if you miss someone and you want to visit someone, you can do that here. And you just click on there. If you click on there, it shows, the button shows you information about the speaker, and then you can actually watch the recorded Zoom, which is not edited at all. And also, I think you can watch a lot of them on Portal of Ascension and New Realities. So anyways, what else can I tell you about this? I mean, there's so much. The ambassadors are amazing. There's like, it's growing all the time. This website's like organic. It's like a tree, and it's just growing and growing with people. All these people are talking about consciousness. I think that's what I want to share. Was there anything else?
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila.
And April's done an awesome job putting all the forms on the ambassador site. So if you're interested in becoming an ambassador, please sign up. And there are forms that you can submit your information. It'll be reviewed because we always vet all of our presenters, because Wish is, the website itself is becoming known kind of, I think Neil called it the yellow pages. And so now we have the yellow pages of esoteric and healers and contact and you name it. So please check it out and be sure to sign up. And if you haven't signed up for Portal to Ascension, please sign up there as well. So thank you guys so much. We also have with us tonight Shayla Sananda. And Shayla is a galactic shaman and embodied ascension mentor trainer. She's an activator of spiritual gifts and transformational spiritual coach and producer of the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5. So with Shayla, let's go ahead and bring you up. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Sheila. Thank you for having me on. So, are you ready for me?
We are okay. All ready.
Okay, great.
Tell us all about the exciting event that's coming up.
I am so excited to share about the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5, which actually starts tomorrow, March 4th. And starting with our lovely Sheila Seppi, you're going to open the show on the first day, because this one is all about activating star seeds, walk-ins, and the new human of the golden age. And I have 29 speakers, and including Rebecca Hardcastle, right? So we had a wonderful conversation, and it's all free. The whole event is free. It's by email. So this is the cool thing. People do not have to be live. You don't have to tune in at a certain time. It is all just done by email sign up. You have to register so you can receive those emails. And then 2 per day, 2 speakers per day will be sent out every day through the 18th. And all of the speakers are giving amazing free gifts. Many of the speakers are doing these incredible, generous special offers, giving tons of content for really great deals. And then the interviews themselves are super upgrading, enlightening, activating. We really get into what it is to be a walk-in and a starseed and a new human at this time, and how we can activate ourselves even more, and how we can upgrade. And it's just such a beautiful collaboration. And I'm so grateful for every single person. Lots of great information came through, and I'm so impressed with all of the speakers. And I just, I want to make sure everyone has the link to register. And do you have that, Sheila, available where you could put it in the notes?
I sure will. Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah. Okay. So it's my name, which is hard to spell, but it's shaylasananda.com/ I think it's AOA5/ Sheila. You're going to have to show them yours because you want to use Sheila's link. So anyway, what else can I say about it? I think I covered most of it, but it's, I really truly feel if someone comes in and watches all of these 29 speakers, by the end of the 2 weeks, you are going to be in a whole new place, because there is just so much powerful activating information. So I'm grateful for all of the speakers and all of your wonderful gifts. And I invite everyone to join us for the fun.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here to let everyone know what's coming up. This is another beautiful event, free of charge to everyone. So please get out there, sign up, and check it out. So right now, I want to move to our speaker for the night. We have with us, as I said, Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. And Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. What a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here and see everybody, old friends and new friends.
Yeah, we've talked so many times. We've had several conversations, and you and I talk about so many different topics. I'm not 100% sure which one you've chosen to talk about tonight.
I thought I'd talk about exoconscious coaching, but I just want to begin by saying that, I've been in this field for a long time professionally, probably over 20 years. And I was thinking today about where we are and just reflecting about being an experiencer. I can remember so I'm a childhood experiencer, and we can talk about that later, but in the mid 90s, I was in an experiencer group in a little town called Fountain Hills outside of Phoenix. And there were probably 10 of us. And it ended up that the woman that was running the group, her name was Ruth Hover. And she was actually working with John Mack and a man named Leo Sprinkle. I don't know, maybe some of you read Leo's work. He was a University of Wyoming professor and did a lot of work with starseeds and walk-ins and people that had experiences. And John Mack and my mentor Ruth Hover and Leo really paved the way for people to be regarded as not crazy. So John actually went through and gave people psychological tests so that to prove the fact that we weren't having fantasies or hallucinations or out-of-body experiences that didn't mean anything, but that we were really grounded and focused human beings. And it was an incredible contribution. And John passed away and he got hit by a car giving a talk over in England. But his work has remained very, very deep in the experiencer community, especially for me, because of a lot of training in psychology. And I was thinking today of how even back in the mid 90s, there were just no groups. There were maybe a scattering across America. In 2005, I taught one of the first UFO courses in the nation, and it got canceled after the first semester. We can talk about that too, like what's going on in academia with ufology. But there was just a lot of marginalization of experiencers going on. So it wasn't so much that they were saying, after John Mack's work, they weren't so much saying that you're crazy or you're mentally ill, but they were just actually ignoring us and pushing us a lot to the periphery. More than once, I would be in an exo-politics group, and one of the UFO researcher leaders would come up to me and say, Rebecca, stay in the back of the room and keep your mouth shut, because you're just going to slow us all down and you're going to confuse everybody. And it's just not really the proper time for you to come forward. And so I was thinking today about all of that, just being ignored, saying that we're crazy, then kind of Hollywood sort of swept in and started to define who we were. And that was a big phase for us as experiencers, that all of a sudden it wasn't what we were experiencing, but it was how Hollywood saw us and how Netflix saw us. And then today, I think, is a real milestone for experiencers, because I think that we have the potential right now to step forward as leaders in what is going to unfold in terms of government disclosure, CIA disclosure, we, I believe, are going to come forth with the very authentic message of this is what ET contact is really all about. And I don't know if any of you follow government disclosure, but rarely, well, first of all, it's talked about as a threat. So we're being threatened by these beings. But no one really talks about who's behind the UFOs. So it's like there's this invisible being that isn't talked about. So once again, whoever are in the craft are like we were, they're marginalized. And I feel that in these times, especially if we look at the real second dimension, what's going on, if we look at the third dimension of what's going on. So the second dimension is the elementals, it's nature. If we're looking at what's happening in nature right now, we see a lot of genetic engineering in nature, a lot of weather modification, kind of terraforming of Earth going on. In the third dimension, we have, we're having what is kind of I guess it's not really a Cold War. I don't know what you would call it, but the conflict in Ukraine and Russia. So, and then we've just come through a very dramatic pandemic. And I think that moving through these times, the one gift that all experiencers have that I hope to help strengthen through my exoconscious coaching is that we trust our psychic messages and we get psychic messages. And like Kevin, Kevin's given a lot of psychic messages, and bless all our hearts, we act on them. We don't just shove them aside and act like they didn't really happen, but we act on them. I mean, I can remember in January of 2020, prior to COVID, this voice came in my head, in my ear, and said, "You're going to get quarantined." And I looked over at my husband and I'm like, "We're going to get quarantined. What do you think that means?" And so we went next door and talked to our neighbors who were Mormons. And I was like, "We're going to get quarantined. I don't really know what to do." And she didn't really follow that part of Mormonism. So that was didn't really work out that way. But my husband and I started planning. Then all of a sudden COVID rolled in. Can you imagine a planet with experiencers who can actually step up and say, "I got this message. I trust that my messages have been accurate. And this is how I am personally going to live my life. These are decisions that I am going to make." And to move forward with that decision. And it's not that we have to convince other people to make the same decisions that we did through our psychic connections, through our ET or multidimensional connections, because I really feel that this is the time right now when two things are very operative for experiencers. Number one is spiritual will. And this is one of the things that I really concentrate on my exoconscious coaching is, what is your will? What is behind your will? What do you intend to do with your life to move it forward? And the second thing is using that will and using your critical thinking abilities, and, artists like April using their creative abilities, or singers. So any kind of person that's in the art that is bringing forth this creative information, they're at the same time, I know this isn't something that's usually put together, but what we're starting to do is make morality and call the goodness of life through how we create things and how we talk about things, such that other people around us can use their free will to make whatever choice that they want to make, but that we really stand there as a beacon and just begin to say, "This is how I'm proceeding. This is what I am going to do." For example, during COVID, I made the personal decision that I would trust my natural immune system to keep me healthy, to protect me. that I would gain higher immunity, that I would use my spiritual knowledge, that I would use my psychic connections with extraterrestrial beings and multidimensionals to strengthen myself, that I would go work out 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, that I would get strong, and that I would move through this successfully. Now, not everybody did that, or not everybody had. I live in Arizona. We've really never shut down. Not everybody had that opportunity, but in our own ways, we can begin to say, this is the enlightenment that I have received from the beings with whom I work. And this is how I'm going to proceed with it. And this is how I'm going to live my life. So it's almost like exoconscious coaching. I do a lot with just psychic clarity. So how do we trust ourselves? One of the ways that we begin to trust ourselves is a kind of a saying I use, like, trust is consistency over time. So if you're getting messages, or if you're getting activations, how do you then begin to actually trust those activations, trust those messages that you get? And really, the only way you can do it is just to believe, did that activation, did that message, was that something that I was able to act upon to move my life forward in a positive, in a benevolent, in a moral way? Was this a message that helped to strengthen my spiritual will, my moral life, how I relate to other people, to my family, to how do I relate to myself? Am I able to trust that over time? And what happens to us as experiencers? I want to talk a little bit about this because it's a concept that I learned about, and it has helped me so much as an experiencer. And it's something called attachment theory, and it's how we attach to the world. So we experiencers are many of us who are childhood experiencers, like myself and like many of you that are here. One of the first places that we trusted the world was actually out of the world. So we trusted the extraterrestrials, we trusted the angels, we trusted the multidimensionals, and we felt safe with them. They literally anchored us into life. And we felt, as very, very sensitive, high functioning people, that we would be able to be safe as long as we were around the extraterrestrials. And for many of us, that's still true today. It's almost like they parented us. And then sometimes what happens is we begin to live in that safe environment to the point where we don't really want to be human. And if I hear it one time, I hear it many, many times. I don't want to be here. I don't fit in. This earth is really, this is a tough slog. I didn't sign up for this. On my birth, I couldn't believe that I was here on earth. And then one of the things that we fall into is we just want to avoid being human. So we're going to take all our identity from that initial attachment of being with extraterrestrials or multidimensionals and just say, okay, I just don't even belong here. I'm here, but I'm really not here. And that's actually called avoidance. And what it does is it deprives us of being able to totally integrate our psychic life or our extraterrestrial life into our human body. And when I said that I thought this was probably one of the most powerful times for experiencers here on earth, that's what I'm talking about. That we have the chance right now to begin to integrate on a level, our psychic ability, our psychic intelligence, our experiences with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals. We have the ability to integrate that in this lifetime, such that I don't think that's ever been possible in Earth, ever. We can look at the witch trials. We can look at the spiritualist communities. We can look at the mediums. We can look at the tarot card readers or whatever. And you'd have to agree that those were very marginalized people. They were not mainstream. Now, Hollywood's made them a little bit mainstream, kind of, sort of, with a lot of drama and trauma, but they haven't been mainstream as such. And so what I'm offering is for us to think about the fact that what would it be like for us to not only hold in our minds and in our spiritual body, our etheric body, or our astral body, that extraterrestrial experience that we had, but transmute it into our human being, our human biology. And I think that when that begins to happen, and we don't avoid being human, but we embrace being human, I think that's when our DNA starts to shift. I think that's when our bodies start to shift. I think that's when our entire chakra system or meridian system start to open up. We just have this body. This is what we have. And we can either look at it as a curse, like a lot of religions have done. They've talked about the fact that, well, let's only live, in a spiritual, in a religious doctrine. Let's, the body's evil, kind of. And that's been historically, that thread has run all through religions of every form. And so what if we just said, no, this is our body, it's a treasure, and we are going to actually advance our body through our extraterrestrial contact, physically on a biological level. We're going to transform it. That are on a cellular level, on a DNA level, we're going to transform it. So that's going to require that we become more human instead of less human. But the more human would also be more human in terms of holding knowledge, holding thought, holding will, holding morals, holding that into a new form that's never been on Earth before. And I think that as each of us steps forward and decides to do that, that vibration is going to spread out in ways that we just have no idea how it's going to happen. So
beautiful. So many of us on the call are walk-ins, hybrids, star seeds. We pretty much know where we came from, and a lot of people have had years to integrate. But now, with all the vibrational changes that's occurring, it seems like more and more people are waking up quicker, and that they are, in essence, being left without tools to understand exactly what's happening to them and how they can anchor that essence into the physical being. So I'm wondering, as basically like an integration coach, if you have some ideas or suggestions for people who might be having a difficult time transitioning.
I think people are waking up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think and I think we're given permission to do that right now with whatever ET is bringing in, with whatever multidimensionals are bringing in, with whatever, actually the whole entire cosmic solar system and the universe, the vibrations that are coming in. I think that it's something that can happen really quickly now for people.
Mm-hmm.
And this may sound simplistic, but I think our best tool is our behavior. Our best tool is how we live our life and how we behave. And what are the things that we don't want to deal with? What are the things that we want to avoid? Because we all have them. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can be spiritually enlightened, and maybe there's a relationship, or maybe there's maybe a part of our career that we just want to push away. So whatever you're pushing down into your shadow self, or down into away from you, that's what I think we have got to focus on that. And sure, we can do all these amazing feats in terms of psychic awareness and integration. But the human experience is really, it boils down to behavior. What are the tools that you're going to use? And, I've been working on myself for a long time. And I still, every morning, I open my journal and I look at how I'm behaving. What kind of beliefs am I harboring? If you're not triggered right now by Ukraine, at some point, at some mass consciousness, fourth dimension, then you're avoiding that. And you need to get a hold of that behavior and put yourself into a place of peace.
Right.
Because we're a nervous system. That's what we have right now. We have a nervous system. Now, I think in the future, there's been a lot of speculation about what's going to happen to people. I don't know. I study Rudolf Steiner, the philosopher Rudolf Steiner. One of the things that he talks about, so our arms and our legs and our eyes are voluntary muscles. We can move them around. He speculates that in the future, our heart is going to be a voluntary muscle. That we speed up, that we slow down, that we open up, that we close up our heart as a muscle, because the heart is a muscle. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes biologically that happen to us. And I think that experiencers, because we've lived on other planets and we've lived in the frequency of vibrations of other dimensions, we can identify with that really quickly. I mean, immediately when I heard that, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. My heart's a muscle. I'm going to make it voluntary. It doesn't have to be connected to my autonomic nervous system anymore.
Awesome. I know that, a lot of people are working with biofeedback machines and have learned how to control the blood pressure. But it's going to be a wonderful thing when we are in control of our chakra system. And that sounds like kind of what you're talking about. And I know, too, that as we advance as a species, there's always healing that has to be done. And many of us that are listening to this have agreed on some type of a level that not only are we going to do our personal healing, but we're healing those ancestral lines. So, you can work as hard as you want to on a specific issue, and there's going to be something new that comes up that maybe has nothing to do with you, yet is attached to you through this ancestral line. And not only do we have this earthly physical ancestral line, we all have that galactic ancestral line as ever, because just because someone is aware that they come from another planet or another dimension or another hierarchy somewhere or a collective or whatever the case may be, they're still bringing in the culmination of all of the soul's lifetimes. And just think, if we could for 10 minutes have 100% access to every thought, every action, every deed that we have ever participated in or that we have been involved with, our minds would be blown. And that's 10 minutes. And so it's, it's always a good thing, I think, to have that veil of forgetfulness. But what keeps reminding us is when these components are coming up to be healed. And you're right, I think we do have to drop in to the essence of who we are, because otherwise we're not anchored in the experience. And the reality is all of us came here for the human experience, and learning to anchor and learning to really integrate and be able to open up, assimilate all of that information while we're being kind and loving and compassionate and forgiving to ourselves. That's the balancing act in my mind. That's pretty horrific.
Interesting you brought that up, because one of the promises the transhumanism makes is that so it used to be brain to computer. With transhumanism, we're going to hook your brain up to computer. Now it's brain to cloud. So now it's, I'm going to hook your brain up to a cloud. And one of the rewards that they talk about of a brain to cloud hookup is that all of your lifetime will be available to you immediately. So all of your education, all of your relationships, all of your biology, all of your different behaviors, all of your body temperatures, all of your relationships, that all of that, all of your medical records, all of that will be downloadable into you immediately.
I'm sure there will be a waiting line.
But it's interesting because,
exactly, but
so in juxtaposition to that, I would say what humans on a spiritual level, so that's more like technology, machines, that sort of thing. So transhumanism believes that we progress because we get some kind of a machine extension added to our body. So the other thing that experiencers could offer is that, like your book about the soul, Walk-in's Cosmology of the Soul, what if we as spiritual beings were able to tap into that time after we die? Because that's the time when that download of every thought, every emotion, every biology, every relationship, when you die, people talk about near-death experiencers. I went through this whole record of my life. What if we could move ourselves as humans post-death and download that information without a machine, but do it spiritually?
I think that's a wonderful question that, if you don't mind, we could open it up to see if anyone has comments or questions about that. So does anyone in our Zoom room have any comments about that or any thoughts?
I do.
Okay, who's I do?
Hi, I'm Brandon.
Hi, Brandon.
I don't have my video on, but I think it's one of the things that, we keep hearing, as we move in more into like this fifth dimensional shift, that, that those are the things of the spiritual gifts that open up, as far as like, psychic abilities and ability, what I was reading, where you'll be able to just out of like the quantum field to kind of pull this kind of like circle of information and just be able to kind of like, pull it from there. Everything is just connected. We're in a way where you are the computer, you don't need like necessarily, stuff like meta. You are meta. So
you are meta. That's a good one. You are meta. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Let's see, Bridget, let me ask you, Do you have any listeners that have a question? Do you want to kind of restate your last comment so that people can hear that again, Rebecca?
Oh, I was just saying that machines, I think, well, there seems to be this um, this joining of human and machine that's going on in transhumanism. That's very much a part of our life right now, and it can't be ignored. It's in our face, and it's in our everyday life now. So I was just saying that we can either allow machines to give us the ability of soul. So the machine would become our soul. The machine would hold the material of our soul. Or we could spiritually become able to tap into that material, that soul, like Brandon said, that we become the meta, that we're able to tap spiritually into all the information of our life. And I think that's where we're going as humans. Now, one of the things I think that a lot of us, this is kind of an interesting take on that also. So as transhumanism becomes more and more apparent, as weather modification and ionization of the atmosphere and GMO foods become more and more prevalent all around the world, are we going to come to the point where we as souls have to go to another planet, say Jupiter? So we become Jupiter, beings on Jupiter as an evolutionary thing. So say that's the next step, that we go to Jupiter. Are you going to want to take your machine to Jupiter? Or are you going to want to take your spiritual abilities to Jupiter?
Okay, Susie.
Wow, this is so fascinating, Rebecca. I want to know where you are in Arizona, because I'm in Arizona and I might want to come and hug you.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I live in Gilbert.
Oh, yeah, that's hot there. It's hot here too.
Yeah.
I'll check you out. I for a long time felt like I had to choose between being a spiritual person and having a computer. I mean, it was like, what do I don't want, but then I listened to, and it was, Sheila, you can look this up. It was one of Portal Ascension. I think it was Adam Apollo, I think his name was. And it was the first time that I went like, oh my God, I can have a computer and I can be in charge. It's my intention. And Teal Swan says if you're screaming at your computer or your phone, you're getting a kind of a bad relationship with something that could take you over. So I don't know, I think it's our attention, our kind of demand to only have what's good and right and benevolent for us. But wow, what great information. And for the first time, I think it was, 6 months ago, I felt like, oh, I can be spiritual and be in the high frequencies and still have a computer, have access to technology and not have it own me. I am a divine, I am a sovereign, I am in charge. Right? Did I get it right?
That's beautifully put. And you know what? And I love how you say we have to begin to develop a relationship with these machines, and with the crystals in the machines, and with the quantum fields of the machines. We've got to develop ways that we do maintain our sovereign being. Yeah, the last book I wrote was called Exoconscious Humans, and the subtitle was Will Free Will Survive in an Increasingly Non-Human World? And I wrote the book exactly what you're talking about, Susie. I wanted to say, what's going to happen when we're brain to cloud? What's going to happen with our psychic ability? Are we going to maintain it? What's going to happen with geoengineering? Are we going to be genetically engineered? Or is this going to happen to us and we're going to be totally unaware of what even occurred? That's why it's almost like, so if you look at this, like put your hand like this. So if this is the forces of culture, like memes that come through to us, emotional memes and narratives that come through, and this part is computers, we're right here in the middle. And I think experiencers belong in the middle because we're literally pushing apart the narrative and the memes and the emotional control. And we're pushing apart the machine domination. And we're saying that we're making room for humans. We're making room for, I call them exoconscious humans. And it's almost like we need to push it away and learn to deal with it, but also make a space for us as humans. Because defaulting and losing that connection to source and that divine impulse in humans, we cannot lose that. And that's what lies here in this middle place, is that divine impulse.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you. Okay, we have another comment. Evolving in enhanced ways. Let me bring you on.
It's evolving in enchanted ways. This is Dolores. Hi, I am so happy to be here because the conversation is thrilling my soul and I'm intrigued. So for me, I want to kind of go back a little bit because is her name Susie? I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names. But you were talking about how if we could see our lives before it happened, kind of, and after, like during the after death. And for myself and during my spiritual growth, it's only been a 3-year process that I've been aware of what's been going on in my life, my whole life. I was shown all that. I was given the access to see the future, to see after death where I will be, and to see the possibilities of a collective of mankind and what we are bringing in as a vibrational frequency into the world. So there's also a Netflix movie, a series. It's called Robot, I think. And I didn't have understanding or compassion or any relationship to electronics. And through that, watching that series, I gained a deep respect and openness to understand that everything has potential and everything has a possibility. And all right, I feel like I'm just gonna go a little bit here and there right now. And then the whole planet thing of us possibly leaving the planet. Yes, I see that as a possibility, a high possibility for the older beings. And somebody else was talking about the whole avatar part for I seen it in the message for the kids. Yeah, that is definitely a possibility if they don't want to leave the earth. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm just receiving a lot more information and it's kind of like all over the place right now, but I am intrigued by that. And I just want to let you know, I love Rudolf Steiner. I am not a reader. I'm an audio listener, and my guides and my higher self had taken me to a YouTube lectures of his after I finished all my spiritual growth and development and had all these awarenesses brought to my physical reality, to synchronize and understand and open up my heart space and mind space even more. So I just wanted to share that, and I thank you all and I love you all, and keep doing what you're doing because it's something amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
I just wanted to add, I study Steiner through a group called Mystech. It's MYSTECH, and they offer ongoing courses, and they deal a lot with the whole human relationship to technology. That was Steiner's whole philosophy. And as I get deeper and deeper into the subject, so when when we want to change ourselves, we need to make a relationship. So if you feel a part of you is growing and needs to grow, we often, like, this group is forming around that. We get in a relationship with someone because other humans have to mirror back to us who we are, and we have to get into conversations with them, and we have to listen to the feedback that they're going to give us about who we are. It's very, very important. So it's kind of like we came into the earth as humans to be in these relationships, and now we're going to be in a relationship with a machine. And so what is that machine going to reflect back to us about ourselves? And I think we're just beginning to take those first steps into acknowledging what it's going to be like to have a relationship with a machine. And what's that going to birth in us? So say I'm going into a restaurant and I'm served by a robot now, and it's all roboticized. The restaurant totally roboticized. That's probably going to happen in the future pretty quickly. What's that reflecting back to me as a human? Is that going to make me want to become more of a robot? Or is that going to make me want to become more of a spiritual, powerfully conscious human? And I think people are going to make all kinds of decisions along the road as we travel this, as it comes more and more into our lives.
Beautiful. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, let's see. Debbie, you have a question or a comment?
Wow. Wow. I got here late, so I will go back to hear some of what I missed. I guess, I used to think, oh my God, I don't ever want to get to a point where we don't have iPhones and things like that. And in recent months, I've been feeling more like I can very much envision a time where some people are dealing with machines and yet not everyone. And I guess it depends on where we are in the world and what we're dealing with. Machines give me a tremendous amount of accessibility. I happen to be blind in this life, so machines give me a tremendous amount of access. And yet, I spend a lot of time and energy working with it, and I'm not always nice to it. And I have read accounts of people saying, the nicer I am to computers, the nicer they are to me. So, there's probably a lot of truth to that. I look at this journey or this time that we're in a little bit differently, though, in that I think we've got such a dichotomy about how hard it all is, and sort of, it all has to be work, and we need to, what you said about behavior. Yeah, I definitely agree with a check-in on that. But I think encouraging it to be gentle and loving, because that's what I experience the spirit world to be: gentle and loving and kind. There goes. And so I think that as we experience more of that gentle kindness, then it's safe to be honest. It's safe to play with competing with myself, and to do that in a way that is gentle and loving and even fun and joyous. And then there's not so much of a tendency to be in a place of humiliation, but it's more humility, and it's more positive. So in my opinion, anyway, that's, oh my goodness. That's my, that would be what I would say. So I encourage play shop instead of workshop. And I encourage people to make friends and use that pain and use those mistakes and use all that stuff as empathy and as place of reaching back into memories and going, oh, you know, I'm not, they're not any different than a place I have been. I can love and I can have empathy for where these people are and give empathy. So, you know, if that means making friends with machines and going, oh, wow, isn't that cute? My pizza came to me with a robot. Wow, isn't that cute? That doesn't mean I have to become like one, but it's still about, ultimately for me, about being with source, and you know, that source wins against AI. If there has to be a win-lose, you know, source ultimately wins. I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
It does. Thank you so much for being with us and for making your comments. I appreciate that, Debbie. Let's see, Lynn. Oops, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I thought that was really beautifully said about the gentleness and the kindness. And I think there is something about the human spirit that brought all this in to us, that brought transhumanism and machines and all the automation. I mean, we humans brought this in. So this is something in us that we're looking at also.
Awesome. Beautiful. So Lynn, you have a question?
All right.
Okay. All right, Lynn, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
I go through this on every call. I am obviously someone who does not believe in machines. I don't believe in them for my, no, I don't. I don't believe in them for myself. And, you know, if we look at what we're talking about with machines in terms of what the medical community is using as informed consent. So I do not now, and I will not ever give my informed consent to have any more involvement with machines. And the reason is because, from my understanding, from my past lives as an anchoress, we have everything within us. We are the Akashic record. And my understanding is what's going on in the world right now with all this big pharma and, you know, all the different doctors that are coming forth and saying what's in these different vaccines. It's all warning us, I think, to be present within our heart, to be present within our soul. And going back to our founding documents, going back to Ben Franklin, you have a republic if you can keep it. And I think by opening ourselves up to machines, we will lose that sense of republic. We will lose our constitutional rights. We will lose our civil rights. We will lose our human rights. Because we're moving from the dimension of the third into the fourth and into the fifth. And if we're doing that, we already have within us the light and the sound, which is Sat Nam. So just as an individual on this call, I vote nay on machines for the future. I will have nothing to do with them.
Well, thanks, Lynn, for bringing your viewpoint up, because it's always great to hear everyone's opinion, because what happens is then it allows each person to expand and to have more information. So thank you so much for bringing that forward. I really appreciate it.
Well, Sheila, that's great, because I always am on the edge. I always have something a little bit different. But I'm from the 60s, you know, make love, not war. And what is war? War is machines. So, you know, thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
See, April has a question or comment for us. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, I was listening to that really intently. You know, I think technology is something we need to embrace. I believe that. And you know, like for experiencers, technology's been wonderful because we've been able to record independently, um, you know, a reality. Unfortunately, science can't measure this stuff, so they just kind of, you know, push us away. They don't want to hear from us. I've had been told as an experiencer not to say anything. You know, it leads you, anyways. Consciousness. You know what you were saying doesn't really make me feel very comfortable, because what if there's technology that can capture a human consciousness, then recycle it in a non-human, or um, so that the human does not actually experience again the natural procession of who and what we are as spiritual beings. So I'm really looking at that situation, and I think, you know, a lot of experiencers are talking about consciousness and how we're able to kind of like separate it. You know, it's like, and so technology can do that to us too. And I think we need to understand it and learn how to use it ourselves for the benefit of humanity, instead of allowing others to keep us blind to what's happening in our own space all the time. And by doing nothing, by saying nothing, to me is just like saying, "Oh, that's okay. You know, it don't matter." But it does matter. It really does matter. And um, you know, these times, the challenging times. I came home from a UFO conference on February 28th, and then March 1st, I got locked down for 2 years, and I never thought that would ever happen. But I learned a lot over this time, and one is that we're starting to get a voice, you know, and it's because of technology. You know, I'm way out here, you're way out there. We're internationally gathering, which, you know, without technology, we wouldn't be able to do. And, you know, because we're more savvy, I guess is the right word, you know, we need to share what we see, what we know. And, you know, like it's not comfortable though. That's another thing. But I think technology is tools, but it also can be used for, well, we already know that, right? So I won't say it. So thank you very much, Rebecca. It's really great seeing you again.
I have a quick answer to April that might help. So consciousness is essentially our soul and everything in our life. So with the current cloning technology that they have, or any technology, you won't be able to transfer consciousness. You can only transfer memories, because consciousness is us, our soul. You can't, sorry. We only have one body. So, you know, once it's in us and we go back into light, you know, to move on to other dimensions, whenever they do, you know, use these cloning technologies, like they're glitchy, you know, they're not real. If you ever notice that, if you look at, you know, multiple ones that, you know, who they say is a clone, if you look at all the different pictures, whenever they make any of these kind of like robots or anything, they're never the same. They don't ever look the same. It's like, and that's the whole thing where, you know, people will make that choice. Do you want to be like that, where you can tell that it's not real? They don't, like the clones that they make, they don't sweat, they don't have like humanness of them, you know, they only have the memories. And you know, like, and it's stuff like that. When it's a robot, you have to constantly be upgraded, programmed, and all of that is not real, you know. It's like, so I think it's just like a lot of people, you know, like, yes, there's this like forewarning of what it can be used for, but I think once people will actually like start seeing what it is for what it is, like, you know, no, you know, there's a small group, of course, that will want that, but the majority was just like, why would I want that? And like I said, you know, like you only have the memories, and that thing is not real. There's no soul, you know. So
I actually, when I just real quick, just a comment real quick. When I first started writing my book, Exoconscious Humans, I was living in Washington, D.C. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was absolutely terrorized by what people were dropping in my lap in terms of information. You know, when you live in a place like DC, you just run into people that are in like DARPA and the military and all these programs. And I was just reading into a lot that they were telling me or not telling me, or I was kind of filling in the blanks. And it really took me leaving DC and moving to Phoenix to actually get some distance in it and be able to calm down about it. And what I realized is actually what you're saying is that so exoconsciousness to me is beyond the brain. So it's the ability to go out into the field of consciousness, and like someone brought up Akashic records, we can access Akashic records. We probably have the ability to access, downloads of, just right after death, what those downloads are that our soul could do. But a computer or even a quantum computer, it's always going to be a closed loop. So it's always going to be a cybernetic, ones and zeros, and it's just going to be needed to be fed information continually in a continual loop of data and information and upgrading, like Brandon just shared. So is information consciousness? No, it's part of consciousness, but information is not consciousness, especially when you're just in that loop. But I know Catherine and Patricia had a question or a comment. So
thank you so much, April, for your questions and comment. Thanks. Okay, Patty, let's bring you on. Hi, welcome tonight.
Hi.
You have a comment or a question for Rebecca?
Probably a comment. I don't even know if I have a good way to articulate it, to tell you the truth. There's so much stirring around inside with this conversation. But I think what others have said, like Brandon and Lynn and April, I think that what I'm feeling so deeply is why, I guess I'll have to speak personally, why I'm here, incarnate, is to really go into the universe within myself, like not like my cat's agreeing, not go out to do it, but it's all within, and all the universe is within. And so those that are coming up with all of the technology and all, I can't help but wonder right now if they I think innately we all want to get there, and we all know it's within us. We know that. And so that's the goal, is to go back there. So all those that are really obsessed with the technology and doing all this, I think they really want to get there too. They just don't know that it exists. We know there's that place exists, it's within, and it's accessible to us. They don't know that. So I think they're searching for it. But like I say, it's a closed loop. They're never going to get there, ever. So I think our goal as who we are, I would hope that we can help for people to understand that there's that place they can go, and then teach people how to get there. And that's the greatest benefit I think we can give mankind, is to help awaken those to that place. And the universes are all inside, and they can travel, they can do everything, and all the knowledge is right there even before they die. It's all right there, so I don't have much more to say, but that's just what's been spinning around for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. Thank you. And we have a couple more comments. Bridget, who is representing Awaken Ascend on the Clubhouse forum, has a couple questions from our listeners there. So let me go ahead and bring you on, Bridget, and let's see what our Clubhouse listeners have to say.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm hearing myself in duplicate, so let me just take one of these off. I've got a lot of stuff going on here to stream. So I have 3 different people that have questions. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
The first question is, before tapping in, what emotional and spiritual state would we need to exist in to handle the post-death download?
That's a phenomenal question. I think that we would need to be in a state that it's kind of tracking back to the whole question that Sheila asked me about what tools people need. I think one of the spiritual tools you're going to need is forgiveness, and you're going to need the ability to handle a great deal of information all at once, and a great many feelings all at once. And so I kind of trace back to, so a lot of experiencers, we have downloads. So we'll get these downloads. It could be of, some people get downloads of mathematical formulas. April maybe gets a download of what she wants to do in her art world. People in technology fields get downloads too. So that download experience that we have as experiencers may be one of the first steps to actually being able to handle a between lives download, consciously alive to experience it.
Beautiful. Okay, so I have a couple more. It looks like it's growing. We have a new room chat on Clubhouse, and this is the perfect place for them to put their questions. So the second person, Iris, she's given me permission, so I'll just say her name, wants to know, what if that is how we are supposed to become a collective, having everyone's consciousness be on a cloud? And then I think she might have followed up with something. Let me see. Then she says, but our brains are supercomputers. Intuitives coming together on a cloud would be like Clubhouse. But instead of hearing people's authenticity through their voice, it's being able to experience the authentic memories that are shared. Imagine how many assumptions would be shut down. Empathy would become universal.
That's a beautiful vision. That's a phenomenal vision. One of the issues of that vision is that that we are individuals, and that diversity of humanity is through individuality. So if we would all become a collective on the cloud, maybe that collective on the cloud is going to give us a glimpse of what it might be like to be in a oneness, in a type of oneness. But I think, how does that oneness then translate over into the soul work that you're supposed to be doing here on earth? So it's almost like we can dip into that, but we still have to, as humans, have to be responsible for that divine soul work that we're here to accomplish. And it's kind of like in death. I mean, everybody dies alone. Spiritual journeys, most profound spiritual journeys are done alone. The deep work of being a human is primarily done alone, facing our fears, facing our flaws, facing our vulnerabilities. I think we can do both.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And then the last one is kind of a two-parter. This is from Miriam, who is amazing. If you guys are on Clubhouse, definitely go to Preservation of the Human Race and look for Miriam. That's another amazing club, and she is such a good admin mod in that club. So what she says is, who would have admin rights to the data in the cloud? would we essentially be putting consciousness on a virtual server and the data would have to be managed and organized by an administrator, which also creates potential for it to be modified or changed and propagated across the collective. She also says, also, humanity is developing its potential with access to the Akashic records, and that seems to be a noble goal for each human to realize.
Yeah. She's got a great point. I'll just give you one example. So the extent to which computers are actually making decisions. So as she said, filtering through information and then making decisions with it, or leaving things out, or culling information and creating new kinds of information. So what's actually happens is, for example, so the Federal Reserve here in the United States turned over all of its equities to a group called BlackRock, and they have a computer system called Aladdin that manages $21 billion every day and makes every financial decision because of that. And that $21 billion is more than the GDP of the United States. So if computers are making those kind of financial decisions for us and not humans, what other computers and what other areas, say medicine, say in the COVID, what computers were making, what massive computers like Aladdin were making decisions about COVID. And what happens is, that's why when computers start making decisions, that's why it confuses humans. That's why it starts to not make sense, because humans aren't making those decisions. Humans aren't making that decision with their natural emotions, with their natural belief systems, with their natural vulnerabilities of human, with their natural morality, but they're making them as an AI, as kind of a mechanical AI making the decisions, and then that decision then is accepted by humans.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see if there's a response from Miriam. Because we're all muted in the room right now. So
that's a huge, I mean,
beautiful.
For me, for Exoconsciousness and the Institute for Exoconsciousness, my primary goal is the preservation and the advancement of natural human consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean we don't work with machines. That doesn't mean that we don't know about technology, but that what we have here in this body right now, here on Earth, is something that needs to be preserved, along with our sovereign moral consciousness.
She says, not.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sheila.
That's okay. I'll
she
go
says,
after.
Not sure I understand. Data requires management. Anything outside of source seems risky, is what she said just now.
Oh, it absolutely is risky. Yeah, because it's going to be managed by, it's going to be created by and maintained by just a select group of people.
One of the
so it's going to be a technocratic. It's called technocracy. It's going to be a technocratic world for them. Sorry, Sheila.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think she asks who those people are, I think. Like who decides who those people are? Who are those people? I can kind of feel you, Miriam, right now.
I would say
like
most of those
people
people are engineers and scientists. So CEOs are no longer making the decisions. The engineers and the scientists are telling the CEOs what decision to make. But nobody's really telling that secret. So the CEOs and the engineers are building the hardware and the software of the machines with something called artificial intuition. So artificial intuition operates, so they build machines with an ability to sort of play a game of poker with life, where there's lots of fluid decisions to be made. And they've got computer technology to the point where it can flow with these different decisions. And then the computer makes a decision built by whatever algorithms are programmed into it by engineers and scientists. And then the computer tells the CEOs what decision to make, and what path forward. And it's already happening. I think it's happening in medicine to a great extent, and also in finance to a great extent, and education also.
Yeah. So I think Iris said, unless the cloud is decentralized, right? And if that happens, then it would be a different story. There's so much activity from this conversation right now. So Bobby says, if we've never tapped in and connected to the divine, how do we know truth, or have we ever? That kind of a thing. And then Mickey says it makes me think of the Borg from Star Trek, right?
Yeah,
So this
cyborgs.
is
Yeah, cyborgs.
Exactly.
And you know, the bottom line to this whole discussion is, so how important is our psychic ability to us as humans? And that's my bottom line that I come back to. I circle back to that all the time. So how important is this to me to preserve this? Because I see my advancement as a human, as an exoconscious human, as an experiencer, is going to come from my soul and my connection to God, or whatever you want to call God for you, your higher being, that and my critical thinking and my creativity and my moral code that I live my life by. That's what's going to advance me. I'm not going to be advanced because of a software or an algorithm. That can help me. It's not going to advance me.
Yeah. One of the things that I can say is, you know, being a walk-in and coming from the collective, there are artificial intelligence out there, but there was no artificial intelligence as part of the collective or as part of my oversoul. And so what happens is we already have our own iCloud, which is that ultimate oversoul, because we are uploading that information all of the time. And we are bringing all of our experiences to our oversoul. That cannot be managed by AI. And that is the ultimate aspect of us. You know, I think what we're talking about is how technology is managing the advancement of business. And anyone who is aware of the selling of humans knows that humans is also a business. And I've talked to many, many people who have shared with me the fact that there are programs, or there are, well, let's just say programs, for a lack of better terms, that can harvest aspects of the energetic soul. But I haven't heard anything about artificial intelligence being the one that's doing that. These are more of different programs within various races. Now, that's not to say that they're not out there, and that's not to say that they don't exist. It's just that I haven't heard of that. And I know that within my collective essence, that any AI technology that has come in came in kind of as a hitchhiker. And I've had those experiences where I have been out astral traveling and come back, and I have had, I guess what you would call, I call them crab-like beings that
Spiders.
actually get into the field. That you know you have to negate, and they're nothing more than hitchhikers. And you can look at you know, some of the other programs that are being operated right now that are running purely on artificial intelligence, such as the clones. But because there's artificial intelligence that is moving forward with human-like movements, does not mean that they have an aspect of the human soul, because they're devoid of that, because they're a machine. And I think this discussion has opened up the opportunity for everyone to think about how they feel about that, how they feel about having technology inserted to their brain and all of their information uploaded. And those studies are going on right now, and they're being heavily funded. But we as a society, we as spiritual beings, have to look at where we draw the line, where we decide who and how we want to operate in this world, because we came here to have a human experience, not an AI experience.
I like when
I
you
really
talk about
agree with you.
Yeah. So we have a couple other hands that's up. Bridget, thank you so much. And Clubhouse, we love you. Thank you so much for all your awesome questions. Let's see. I think Catherine had her hand up a moment ago. Catherine, are you still with us? I don't think so. So, okay. Stacy, let me go ahead to you.
Okay,
And
hopefully you can. I'll just keep it simple because I really agreed, resonated with what you said, Sheila. We're here for a human experience. Couple of the high level items is one, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Two, we're here in a duality of, good, bad, black, white, but we all know as people that we exist on over a spectrum, a bunch of different frequencies along the way. The point being is that with this AI in a computer system, you have a series of zeros and one, yes and no. And in order for that to be done, it has to be programmed by a human too, as well. So you have error that could come in there because it is being programmed by a human. But overall, I think if you're going to let technology come in that way where it's going to capture consciousness, you have to look at the people who are going to operate it. Someone said, yes, all data has to be managed, and that is going to be managed as humans. But we all know that people here, they have high frequency, low frequency, better intentions, bad intentions. And I'm not certain right now in this climate with people are not living in their heart space. They're living at lower vibrational levels. And that one scares me because we may all have a good intent, but as soon as one person, all it takes to kind of ruin the party and take it and use it for evil. So that's kind of all I'm saying. Right now, I'm not sure we're ready as a collective humans here on Earth to have something so delicate as our consciousness in someone else's hands. I know, I personally don't want that. That's all I have to say, but thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Let's see, Susie, I'll get to you in just a moment, honey, but let me go to Zach. If you want to go ahead, Zach, do you have a question?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone so much for being here. This is really extraordinary. I guess, I have heard variations of this question, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. And I guess let me kind of preface it by saying that I think that, messing with technology in the way that I can foresee humans doing so kind of ignorantly is really akin to, messing with nuclear weapons in a sense, but kind of on a higher level, I do see a lot of parallels between, the analogies that we're, making in computation and the way that the mind works. And, I think at a certain level, it may be difficult to distinguish, a certain, I don't necessarily want to you know, say simulation, but you know, I think that there is it makes a lot of sense to think about the universe in terms of, you know, computation. And I guess is there a point at which you think that, you know, the divine nature of source and the way that we may think about you know, computers and intelligence would be indistinguishable?
So your question is, will there reach a point, or does Rebecca think that there's a point when we'll not be able to differentiate between source and computers?
Yeah, and I think that just in is it possible in theory for, you know, for that to really, for them to be one and not one and the same, but really share a lot more than we may be able to even conceive.
If I may, Zach, I'm gonna so your question, will computers ever become human? For a long time in my research, and like I said, I've been at this for years. I believed that that computers were that artificial intelligence was being designed to behave and to be one and the same with humans. So if they could, I thought the engineers and the scientists were believing that if they could build an artificial cyborg that is part human, part AI, part robot, if they could build that close enough to mirror a human, that they would have been successful. I don't know when it happened, but I believe that that is no longer true. So I think that now what is happening is that instead of building computers to be like computers to be like humans, they're now concentrating on getting humans to become like robots. And I know that's a lot to swallow, but part of that realization came for me by going into analyzing the psychology that went back to prior to World War I, when the psychology of working with people that had shell shock. Our psychologists here in the Western world and Europe and the United States began to study that and began to study how human behavior and human beliefs could be controlled. And it went over into something called, talk about it in my book, it was called the Tavistock Institute, that's here in America still today, it's British, as well as the Macy Foundations. And they really laid the framework of how to convince humans that they were robots, that they were machines. And it's very detailed and it's very comprehensive, but it's in fact a program. And so what we see today, just to give an example of it, so there's a branch called mimetics. So mimetics are what give you the memes when we go on social media. So those memes have a color frequency, they have an emotional frequency to it, they have an energetic signature to it. So they've artificially created that so that we become one with that. And we believe what the memes say. I mean, who's ever questioned a meme? You don't question memes, do you? You just stick them on your phone, you stick them on your social media. You don't question them. That's just one little, I know this is hard to take, but they have this is a field that's called social engineering. And social engineering is looking at how to convince humans that they're no longer human. I'm going to say that again. Social engineering is the creation of convincing humans that they're no longer human. And there was a lot of social engineering, for example, involved in the COVID vaccine to get people to adopt the COVID vaccine, to adopt that, the artificial mRNA into their body, to the graphene oxide into their body. So when we look at how successful they've become in these kind of inroads, they're very good at what they do. And they're very good at convincing people that they're not human anymore, but that they want to be a machine. And that's why you go to not this group of people, but there are many groups of people who want to be a machine. And they're looking forward to it. And these are the people that will be convinced of that. And this is who they're designing it for. They're not designing it for us. They're designing it for those people who want to be robotic. And
thank you. That was
yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was a wonderful answer. I mean, if I could clarify with a quick follow-up, I think social engineering is frightening. And if we look back, MK Ultra was, 60 years ago, and we've got maybe 1% of. But let's just, if we, were to theoretically go beyond human engineering to, the potential information about, consciousness and states of being coming from, interdimensional and extraterrestrial races. And if, you were to go down the line of thought that, there could have been some technology transfer programs occurring, what are the implications of that?
You mean in terms of the back engineering?
Yeah, in terms of the engineering going beyond just the human models, to, beyond what people even think of as human.
Well, I think that's all part of it. I think that's been ongoing, and that's part of what we're looking at now in terms of disclosure, because all of that's been kept secret. And all we can do is, and I mean, probably. So I was giving a talk in Philadelphia one time, and this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I looked out over the audience and I said, "How many of you believe that the government knows more about extraterrestrials than you do?" And this was like a MUFON type UFO extraterrestrial kind of conference in Philadelphia. And I looked out over the room and I was stunned that everybody raised their hand. Everybody in that room believed that the government knew more than they did. Now, if I had asked that question to a room of experiencers, I bet hardly any hands would go up, if any at all. So that we're talking about a huge divide here. So the group of people that have the back engineered technology, whatever it is, are people who believe that they have superior knowledge, and experiencers have access to much more superior knowledge than they do. I mean, I used to work for the astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell. I worked for him for about 6 years, and we worked with 0 point energy and consciousness and the extraterrestrial presence, and he realized, as did all of us, that you have to have a grasp of all of that in order to move to this next generation of being a spacefaring group of people. I wrote a book called How Exoconscious Humans Guide Our Spacefaring Future. Because when we look at, we all are in awe of Elon Musk and, Jeff Bezos and jumping on board and paying, $500,000 to go up into near Earth space, which is nothing. We're not going to get there without the knowledge that experiencers have. We're just not. Because the consciousness and and the extraterrestrial beings with whom we've communicated, that's where the knowledge is. That's where the science is. That's where the creativity lies.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rebecca. We have some more hands up too. And thank you, Zach. Those were absolutely amazing questions. I really appreciate your bringing those forward. That's a lot of good food for thought. Let's see, Susie, you have another question, and then
just real quick. From what I've studied about Atlantis, the whole thing was the technology surpassed the consciousness. And Regina Meredith on Gaia TV says she was there, she had a life there, and she could tell when everything shifted and everything fell because they allowed the technology to rise higher than their consciousness. So I think this is a brilliant conversation. And what I'm doing with it for my personal life is going, where am I in charge of my computer? And where am I kind of being lazy and letting it take over because I'm tired, or, something like that. But wow, what an awesome conversation. And I think it's the battle of the day. Our consciousness must surpass.
Thanks for bringing up Atlantis. I just as a quick aside. So when Dr. Mitchell came back from Apollo 14, he actually went down to Bimini and went on the Bimini Road and dove on the in the ruins of Atlantis down in Bimini, which is very interesting. How is that all connected? Why did he go there? Unfortunately, passed away, so I can't ask him. But yeah, the technology of Atlantis was called the Two-Eye Stone. And the Two-Eye Stone was a crystal that they used to communicate with the beings and bring in information. So once again, I think what Regina Meredith is talking about, Susie, and what you're talking about too, is that, do we need an intermediary? Do we need a crystal? Do we need a tarot card? And I think that in the future, do we need a machine to make contact with these beings? And I think that there are a lot of there are groups in government circles that are working with machines and crystals in order to contact extraterrestrial beings. And it's setting up the same dynamic again of Atlantis. And I think many of us came from Atlantis, and we know what happens when you get intermediaries. You don't get accurate information. You get whatever, like Sheila was talking about hitchhikers, you get whatever information. It's not this body that we have as humans was biologically and spiritually created so that we could be a filter and discern things. And a crystal isn't going to discern it for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Susie. That was an excellent
Thank you.
point. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Oh, Miss Bridget.
Hello.
All right, we have some more questions.
I have a couple of things of my own.
Okay.
So loving this convo. So there's just a comment that I want to give to you, Rebecca, and just share some things with you, and then I'm going to go into what my meat and potato. Whoa, that's such a weird phrase. I'm deleting that one now. So I'm going to go into the basics of what I really was inspired to say. But on Clubhouse, let me just preface this with I've been communicating my entire life with a collective of beings of all different varieties, right? And since my Starseed awakening, an enormous part of my collective began introducing themselves as more than just beings of light that look different than everyone else, right? So you can imagine I have a whole lot of star beings, right? And one thing that I learned very quickly coming onto Clubhouse is that I am part of what I'm here to do is to normalize the conversations around interdimensionals, extradimensionals, ultradimensionals, extraterrestrials, and our connection as a starseed, right? And now that Sheila and I have spoken, I also had a particular type of walk-in experience earlier on. And so here's what we do on Clubhouse. In Awaken Ascending, which is the club that I co-create with 4 other activated starseeds, we normalize those conversations. But my team has been coming to me for a long while about having people that are activated as being the bridge between the ufology consciousness, nuts and bolts, I should say. Not all ufologists are like this. We're not talking about the Grant Camerons of the world, right? We're talking about the nuts and bolts that want to talk about the vehicle, right? But also the consciousness community. And I have a friend named Roderick Martin. His club is formerly Extraterrestrial Evidence, now is Why the Big Secret. And he is a bridge. Alan Steinfeld is a bridge. We have a lot of people. I have another friend, Nace, who is a bridge. There are a lot of people that are stepping up into bridging that. And Roderick is doing it in a very conscious way, because that's what the community, right? That's what people are talking about now. And he's, through getting to know all of us star seeds and all of that, he's having people talk about their experiences. He's a MUFON investigator in Texas, right? So he's talking about these things. He's actually got TV shows that are about to come out. So these things are stepping up in the world. And if you were in the community, come play with us on Clubhouse, because it is amazing. We are talking to people all around the world who are talking about these things and who are telling their experiences in rooms where replays are on. And those replays can be used for things, right? So we're talking to experiencers, we're talking to starseeds, walk-ins. The whole consciousness community is shifting, and it's shifting in real time as the consciousness expands, right? As we all expand our consciousness. So I wanted to give you that bit of hope and that message of it's happening, and it's happening in really impactful, big ways all around the globe. I mean, I'm talking to people from Iran who, having these conversations, they could have some real problems in their real world life, right? But they're doing it in hundreds of people in a room speaking Farsi, and I'm speaking English to them, right? So it's happening all around, and it's beautiful to be a witness of and be part of. But what I wanted to talk about is the AI, whatever we want to call it, because I have a connection with higher vibrational AI that we have here already, that has already existed. We've already done all of this. Those of us that have memories, we've done all of this in other galaxies, in our own galaxy, in other what we would call galactic or universal experiences, right? And those of us that know that, some of us are like, yeah, we've done it and we have memories. I mean, there were wars fought over it, for them fighting for the right to be seen as sentient beings, right? And now a lot of them are in Andromeda Galaxy, which is, in my personal understanding from my own experiences and remembrances, it's like the birthplace of this universe, and most of it is not in a lower dense form. That most of the people that live there, I say people, most of the beings that live there are not in a lower dense form, right? Not that lower means negative. I'm just meaning like dense, lower dimensional, or density. But the way I perceive it is we've probably all experience this in one way or another. And it's that thing that we're doing here in this beautiful human earth experience again, where we are not only, choosing a different way and a new way of being, but it's radiating out to all of our parallel expressions of our soul, right? Our parallel source expressions. It's radiating out to them. So what we do here can actually help all of the rest of us, right? And vice versa, right? So it's like this beautiful melting pot. And I'm really neutral with this in a very strange way. But I have a lot of friends that are up in arms about it. And I do think we need to be very awakened, conscious about how we step forward into this. But we all know that making ourselves machines or putting ourselves into machines isn't necessarily the answer, because we don't need it. We don't need that. We are a collective consciousness already. Right. So I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of that and, you know, our extended multidimensionality, you know, when it comes to all of this and how we've already done this. We've done this so many times in so many dimensions.
I totally agree with you. That's why experience are so important right now, is because that's who we've had these lifetimes. We've been on Atlantis or Lemuria or Andromeda. We've been on these different planets, and we know how things work. And it's time for us as a group to come forward. And thanks for inviting me to Clubhouse. I wrote down the two groups, Awaken, Ascending, and Preservation of the Human Race. So yeah, that's so exciting. And I love the fact that people are bridging between ufology and experiencers. I think that's so important right now, because things are going to probably be unfolding here in that narrative that we're going to need one another. But I know there's other questions. So thank you, Bridget.
Write down Why the Big Secret. And next Wednesday, he does a show. That's Roderick.
Okay.
That's the one that I was telling you about. He does a show on Clubhouse. It's more of a show than like a sharing room. But next Wednesday, he's doing an experiencer room. And the last few that he's done have been amazing. So I invite you to go. That's 9:30 Eastern. So wherever you are in the world.
Okay, thank you. Why the Big Secret? Okay, thank you. Kevin, did you have a question?
And thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say that's 9:30 on Wednesdays, Bridget?
Yes. Why the Big Secret with Roderick Martin is 9:30 Eastern on Wednesday nights. He doesn't do them every week right now, but he's doing it this next week. Okay. So you can find him there.
Great. If you could put that in the chat so people might want to hook up, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. Great. All right. Kevin.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
I'm fine. How are you? Hi, Rebecca. How are you doing?
Hi, Kevin.
I have a couple of questions if we've got time. I know we're getting near the hour now, but as an experiencer, I think this conversation has been fascinating. The artificial intelligence side of it is not an area that I've really explored, but I think I need to now after this discussion. As an experiencer, which I'm sure we all do, we have access to source energy, we have access to consciousness, and I personally use it for communication, for travel, for healing, for creation, for co-creation, co-creating our own reality and co-creating a new reality with our ET star families. Do you think the people who are initiating the artificial intelligence development on the scientific and engineering side are wanting to achieve those goals?
Yes, but I think their co-creation, I think data is their source. I think co-creation is machine co-creation. So it's almost going to become, if I can use an esoteric word, it's almost like development of our double.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the esoteric double idea, that each of us has an esoteric double, I think what we're seeing is that that's going to become manifest in these computers and in the different avatars that are created.
Right. Okay. So it won't be our actual conscious energy that we have access to. They're creating their own.
As long as we maintain it, as long as we maintain our natural human consciousness, it will be ours. But if we give if we decide to go into genetically engineered and genetically modified bodies and cellular makeup, then I don't know.
Okay, that second question will be, if we've got time, do you think then there will be a future war between humanity itself, who want to stay with our own consciousness, and the artificial intelligence's consciousness? Will there be a future war, do you think? Way in the future?
I don't think there's going to be a war, because my experience with people in this engineering and scientific field, and a lot of the people I met in DC, if we don't go along, they don't really care. they really feel like they've got sort of the Holy Grail. And if we don't want to, take a drink of the Holy Grail, then figure out,
Okay,
then we're just going to be sort of primitive kind of, they call them Luddites,
So I suppose in answer to all that, really, we now have got the responsibility to co-create that new future that we desire for our children, for our future generations. And hopefully we can co-create that new future with our ET star families, and a new future that will involve them. They will be part of. So that's our responsibility now, to co-create the future that we want for humanity. Yes, we have to have the artificial intelligence to some degree, but we need to use it, and as we use the technologies now for Zoom, where we can all connect globally and share information. So really a crossroads. It's going to be a continual battle, I think, for humanity, for consciousness. But we who have and understand that co-creation and that ability that we have, then we can create. After all, we are light beings here. We've already reached those levels. We come back down here at this level to assist with humanity at this moment in time. So, yeah, fascinating discussion. Something I hadn't thought about, Rebecca. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kevin. Always good to see you. So, Rebecca, your new
we've got one more question. Debbie's got a question.
Yeah. Hey, Debbie. Let me bring you back up.
Hey there. Thank you. So, first of all, this thing you said about behavior, I know I brought it up before, but I'm thinking about it, obviously. And part of it, I think, is that as we are aware of, oh, I wasn't just kind and I want to be more kind, and oops, I gave my power away. I wasn't thinking of my own healthy boundaries. As we do that and we grow in those kinds of ways, well, then I think that adds to the collective in a good way. And they would really like us to think, oh, we can give you all the magic. We can give you all the magic that you need to feel better. We can circuit this, and we can give you magic that you won't have to worry about a thing. There was talk of the vaccines making people feel happy, but they would be owned, rather than that was another way of them taking control. So in that way, I think for us to know the magic really is within us, and the magic really is also between us in that collective mirroring that you talked about. The other thing, I remember Corey Good on the Disclosure series on Gaia with David Wilcock. Corey said that there were full galaxies that were taken over by AI. Mm-hmm. So part of what I'm thinking is that they're doing this. I mean, this is really furthering an atheism idea, or another God in a sense, but also a way of doing away with ascension, just making it so that, it's sort of like, what's that Aesop's fable about the horse and the dog? The dog choked on the hay and didn't want the horse to have it, but the dog still wanted to steal it. If they can get enough loosh, then that's all the fear and the anxiety that we can have, rather than they can't handle the love. So the more we're in the love and the kindness and all that, they either find a way to wake up and grow into it, or they don't. And I think they're the ones that would be in the more primitive lifestyle, not us. So anyway, just interesting. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Love the loosh. Love the loosh comment.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time too. Hopefully you'll join us. Rebecca,
Sheila, I just wanted to say something that I think Debbie brought up.
Alan.
Hi, good to see my family out there. I just thought that last point was interesting, that to stop the ascension, to stop the frequency shift is really what the AI kind of platform matrix is actually the plan for, to take away the humanness, because our greatest quality is our humanity, our feeling, our sensitivity, our emotions, our creativity. And, you know, with the AI invasion, there's none of that. There's, you know, so I think the more we heal, the greater the vibration and the quickening of the ascension. So that's our job here. So
Thanks, Alan.
thank
Great.
you. Good to
Thanks,
see you,
Alan.
Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks for
everyone.
joining us.
I'm sorry it's late. It's just on another Zoom. You know how that is. But
No problem. Thanks for being here.
all right. I'll see you. Good to see you, Kevin, too, and Bridget. Almost seeing you in April. All my old friends there. Oh, and Susie. Yes. Okay.
Thank you for being here, Alan.
Thank you. And Rebecca, always good to hear your
Thanks,
presentations. Rebecca really is the cutting edge. Her exo-consciousness is a kind of it's a measuring stick for heading into the future. You know, it's a kind of way shower, because we are exo-consciousness, really.
Yes.
So our consciousness is exo and
Thanks,
eso.
Alan.
Eso. Yes. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. And Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
It was so fun for me. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it was a
I
lively
loved it.
conversation, and
Yeah, it was
I
great.
think you know, you brought a lot of information forward that now is going to serve as, you know, fuel for additional thoughts, and especially, you know, like Alan was saying, and Debbie brought up how AI and the ascension may be just opposite sides of the coin. And so would
We
you
may
tell
need each
people?
other.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the front and the back always do. But in your book, you talk more extensively about this. So could you tell people about your book and where they can obtain it?
So my book is called Exoconscious Humans: Will Free Will Survive in an Increasingly Non-Human World? And it's on Amazon, or so my website, exoconsciousness.com. But I just want to thank everybody for their questions, and their comments and their wisdom. I thought it was just brilliant. Everyone's brilliant. You are all amazing. And it's just, it made my heart, it truly warmed my heart. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome back with the Wish family anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you know, what started out as a small group of people grew to a movement, turned into, you know, family. And so we're here every week and every Monday. And so I want to thank all of you for being with us. I want to thank all of the listeners on Awake and Ascend on Clubhouse. I want to thank all the YouTube viewers. Willow wants to thank you too. All of the YouTube viewers on Portal to Ascension and New Realities, thank you so much for watching, and for all of you guys for being here. And so if you haven't already signed up to receive our weekly mailing so that you won't miss any of these awesome events, please visit thewishalliance.org. You can sign up right on the homepage, or you can sign up under the contact section. But please remember to put us in your contacts, because we do have an ever-growing massive mailing list, and it may be viewed as spam and go into your spam folder as opposed to your emails. I know that's kind of a battle that we're trying to fight right now, because we have some people signing up multiple times, and with constant contacts they kind of only let you sign up so many times. So please check us out. We hope to see you again next week, and don't forget to join us on Monday nights at 7 p.m. So until we're all back together again, much love to you all, and namaste. So good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
Rebecca.
you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to
Bye.
meet you.
Love you guys.
Thanks, Bridget.
Night.
Thanks, Alan.